Yes, sir. We're on another episode of Champ Talk, man. I got my boy Kenneth Scott with me, former receiver from Utah, background in sales, going crazy right now after football, man. So we just gonna dive in and get into your story, man. So first of all, how you doing? And how's life been treating you with this COVID situation going on?
Yeah, man, everything is going well on my end. It sucks and it's unfortunate, especially for what the world is going through. But I'm appreciative of what's happening, especially from the viewpoint of all the things that's manifested for me from the pandemic. So, you know, even though it's a bad thing publicly, for me, it's been good. And I don't want to shy away from all the bad that's been happening. But for me, it's been good personally because I'm able to be at home, my family a little bit more, think more creatively outside the box on what I want to create for myself as far as business wise. And yeah, it's been doing well for me thus far.
That's good. That's good to hear, especially with this could be a lot of negative things going on, but it's great when you can turn those negative things into positives. Like COVID is just one example of that. But yeah, let's just get
Right.
into it, man. I know you grew up in SoCal, man, so I just want to get started, man, with your story, your upbringing. So how was that growing up?
Yeah, man. So, like you said, I grew up in SoCal in a place called the Inland Empire. It's about 45 minutes east of LA. I lived in a place called Rialto, California, and Fontana. It's on the borderline. Literally, 1 foot on to the right, you're in Rialto. 1 foot to the left, you're in Fontana. And I moved there early on. From when I was 4 years old all the way till I went off to college. So I'm an IE baby, and yeah, from SoCal, man.
That's what's up, man. In your childhood, I know you got into a lot of sports. Because before that, you used to hoop. That was your first love originally, but you ended up getting into football. So tell me about your path in that. How did it start off with something like you started off loving hoop, but then ended up venturing out into football, much like my last interview, Andre Lewis. Also
Yeah.
played together. So yeah, how did that happen?
I think it just comes with the nature of you just being in the neighborhood. Like we had a basketball court in our apartment complex. Everybody from different apartments, used to come around and want to, compete against us, like apartment sections versus apartment section, like your neighborhood versus our neighborhood. They come in. And I think that's really what got me into playing basketball, especially competitively. And at times that football wasn't really apparent to me at that time. It was all about basketball. And so yeah, I got into it early on, and then once I got to high school, it was about my freshman year of high school. My stepfather at the time, he was like, "Look, you 6'3", you play the post. The chances of you making it to the NBA very slim. But if you play football, you 6'3", you gonna get a little bit bigger. You gonna dang near be one of the biggest receivers, not only in high school but in college, and possibly if you keep getting bigger and bigger in the NFL." And so I was like, you know what? For me, that was a good business move, even though I hated it at the time because I truly love basketball. But he was just telling me all the transferable skills that I had in basketball, I can go ahead and apply it to football. And that's what I did. That's the type of receiver I was in football. You throw the ball up, I'm gonna go get it like it's a rebound. I'm gonna catch the ball in traffic over 2-3 people and kind of get the job done. And so that's what it all started for me of really taking football seriously, was from my stepfather, telling me that situation and making that business move.
That's what's up. But like you said at first, you didn't really, you were, like you said, you was a hooper. And, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
hoopers, they don't want to get down and dirty and get in that football field. Even though you still play receiver, you feel me?
Yeah.
So really, you don't got to worry about that anyway unless you get tackled. But that's besides the point. What I wanted to ask was like, how did you take it at first? With somebody like your stepfather, coming in and telling you, play this football. Like you said, I mean, you made a business decision, but personally at that time, I know as a high schooler, it's still even hard to make those type of decisions. So how was that at the time? Like, how was you feeling when you did make that switch?
Man, I ain't gonna lie. At first, it was tough. Me and my stepfather at first, we didn't really see eye to eye. I didn't understand a lot of the things he was teaching me. But now, as I'm older, I understand everything completely. And so he was tough on me, like real tough, because he understood the potential that I had, and he didn't want me to go ahead and waste it, doing some stupid stuff or not realizing the potential I had. So early on, man, me and him bumped heads crazy. And so I kind of credit him for everything as far as like my mentality and my mindset. Because I still remember when I was younger, man, it didn't matter who it was. He put me on the best player, and my objective was to stop that best player, and not only stop him, I better outshine him on the offensive end too. And so I just remember like late night, we was across the street at a continuation high school. It was right across the street from our apartments, and it's called Eric Birch High School. And we was in the pitch black, dark. It was just like a street light on, still dark. My stepfather, he black as I don't know what. He dark, like dark, like dark. and so all you could see when he guarded me is his teeth. But he prided to me like, you got to be tough. And so before he came into my life, I was an introvert. I was really clung to my mother because she was sick. And once he came into my life, he kind of gave me that exposure, and it kind of toughened me up and gave me that fatherly love that I needed. And when he came into my life, he gave, he had 2 kids. We had multiple kids, but the 2 kids that he came in my life are my brothers. I don't really call them my stepbrothers. They're my brothers. Been with one of them since he was 1 year old. And so my older brother, when we was playing basketball, especially against the different neighborhoods, man, there was times you come out with a bloody nose. But my older brother, man, he'll punch on me like, hey man, stiffen up. You gotta be tough out here. Like you can't be showing no weakness, And so I think, growing up, having them on me, being tough, like kind of made me, have my mindset change. Like, so when I went to football, it was the same mindset. Like, I'm gonna be a bully out here. And it's funny because I know Andre, his name was Bully, when he was. So, it's the same mindset, man. And my stepfather at the time, because I was very clung to goals, and I had a high motive for trying to achieve everything, kind of overachieving. And so anything I put my mind to, I did so. And so he gave me the nickname Do So. And so that was my nickname growing up with him. It's like a light switch. And once I hear him call me Do So, it was like a light switch, and I just turned into another person. It was crazy. I really had an alter ego.
I was about to say that's your alter ego right there.
Yeah, man. And so when he said Do So, I'm like, all right, let's get it. It's a wrap. And so, early on, like I said, it was tough, but as I got older, it paid dividends for sure, especially in the mindset field.
And let's talk about that. And then I think we definitely could say it paid off well. Even from that transition from basketball to football, going into high school, you ended your high school career like as a 4-star, going crazy down in SoCal, getting all the attention down there, and ended up in Utah. But talk about your time in high school. How was that, and when did you start realizing your potential? Like, okay, what my stepdad was saying was right. Like, I'm a dog, but like I could really start seeing it now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think, man, when I started going to these camps, like these USC camps, UCLA camps, getting all these articles published, And I remember sophomore year, they put me as ESPN top 150 as a sophomore. And I'm like, okay, this is gonna be good. So in high school, my stepfather was like, man, don't listen to none of that. Like, you ain't made it yet. And so he always taught me, like, no matter what praise you get, man, kind of tame it down, because I don't want you to get big-headed, because once you get big-headed, you're going to lose that dog that you got in you right now. And so, I just kept that in me. And like, I'm always humbled by everything. And he was like, man, you're a receiver. You're supposed to catch the ball. It don't matter if it's a 1-hand, 2-finger type catch. That's your job. You're supposed to do it. And so, and then if I had a bad game or something, he'd be like, man, tough it out. Like, and so he gave me that balance. Like, if I failed, he picked me up. And if I was doing really good, he knew how to show me achievement, like show me like just congratulate me, but also keep me humble. So that was good for that. But in high school, man, I think my drive was just different from everybody, because once I got that taste of success, as far as like the coaches reaching out to me, I wanted it more. And so, my stepfather, we used to have a field, like a long field, like 400 yards, 400 yards, just open field. I remember we used to just go out back and to the field and just run down and back. I don't even know why I did it. Why I was doing it, it's just something that it's inside me that made me, I needed to do it to get to the next level. And so, every chance, like after practice, I do extra stuff in the weight room. I did extra stuff. And so I remember freshman year, coming into high school, because I had to be shipped to a whole nother high school that was like 30, 45 minutes away from where I stayed, because my parents wanted me to get new friends, get a whole new environment, because they wanted me to end up like my friends did. And so, going through that stage, I was like, man, I had to learn how to make all new friends. I didn't know nobody. And so, you know, when I got to high school, they used to they compare me to this one guy named Maurice Shaw. And, you know, shoot, looking at us, you would be like, man, you guys are like identical because we had the same size, same stature. He was a senior, I was a freshman. And so my step pops was like, that's who you need to take out as far as, you know, become better than him. If they say he's a legend in his, you gotta put your goal to that so you can be able to surpass it. And so that's what I did, you know, and I ended up wearing number 2 because of Maurice Shaw, because he wanted me to wear number 2. Maurice Shaw wanted to. He was like, I don't want nobody else wearing number 2 but him, because he's seen that in me. Like, he's seen I wanted it. And so, but my main goal was like, how can I erase everybody's thoughts about him? That was my mindset. How can I erase everybody's thoughts about him and only can think about me? But as far as high school, man, it was awesome. It was an awesome experience. You know, I loved all the exposure. You know, I went through some heartache too. I didn't break it, but I had a stress fracture in my tibia. And I remember the doctor had me sit out for a whole 10 months. I couldn't do nothing. And this was right before my senior year. This is when all the schools was coming. I remember SC was coming to the first game to watch me and this guy named Osahan Iribor, who ended up going to Arizona State, wanted to watch that matchup. Next week, wanted to watch another matchup because there were some really talented cornerbacks I'd have been playing against, like my homeboy Brandon Sermons, who went to UCLA. And I couldn't because I had a stress fracture. And basically what the doctor said is I would have got hit on my leg, it would have broken my leg, and they would have to put a metal rod in it. And so for 10 months, I had to wear a stimulator on my leg for 10 to 12 hours a day. And so, you know, right there kind of gave me humbleness too, because I was like, man, this can be taken away at any moment. So when I got back, knowing that it can be taken away at any moment, it made me grind even harder. And so when I came back, it was a wrap from there. But yeah, man, my high school career I loved it just because it kind of enabled that dog in me to, you know, go ahead and pursue and go forward in college.
Sounds like you faced that adversity head on. Like, I mean, a lot of people, once they hit that roadblock in the road, it's like it's kind of hard to get past it. And they can't see, like, you know, that further image that, like, once you get past this, you know, it's no limit to what you can be.
Right.
And I think from what you're telling me, like, a lot of athletes don't understand like the grind and what it takes to be a Division I athlete, or even though make it to that next level. I mean, for somebody like you said, you running sprints after practice, you know, you doing everything it takes to get to that level. So when did you start seeing that fruit of the tree, like start, you know, coming for you, like in the recruiting process? Like, when did you start seeing those offers start racking up and coming in to where
Yeah.
it's like, you know, I could pick any school I want to go to, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Because you put in the work for it and then you start seeing the fruit of your labor. So when did that start?
Yeah. So, man, I made probably the biggest mistake a recruit can make ever. You know, my sophomore year, I was getting all this buzz, and I still remember the media person came to me and was like, what school would you want to go to? If you had to choose, what school? And I was like, oh, that's easy. I'm going to SC. Come
Easy.
on, I'm going to SC.
It's in my backyard.
Yeah, it's in my back. If they offer me, I'm committing right on the spot. I'm taking it. Man, once I said that, oh my God, every coach dang near stopped talking to me because they knew, like I said, if SC offered me, I would have went there. And so I was getting slow played throughout the whole process because everybody wanted to see what USC was going to do. If they offered me, what was I going to do? And so it finally got to a point where I was at the Rising Stars camp and I was balling. I did my thing. Like they have a little video up online on that little recruiting page, and they was talking about how I was one of the best in the nation. And it was like it was after that Rising Stars camp, Coach Pete Carroll brought me and my homeboy Anthony Brown into the office, and he offered us both. He committed. I didn't. And I wanted to kind of play off that mistake I made from back then. So I didn't commit. I just kept my options open so I can start, you know, reeling in those offers. But that was my biggest mistake right there. So I had to get through that hurdle. But luckily for me, you know, my first offer came from the University of Tennessee. I still remember Philip Fulmer, a fax that came in. I remember my head coach was like, hey, Scotty, come in here. He said, look at this. You got an offer from Philip Fulmer, University of Tennessee. I was lit. I said, dang, I don't even know where Tennessee's at. But, hey, that's lit. I know it's over on the other side. But, hey,
That's SEC.
Yeah, for real. But at that point, I didn't really know. I was just too into Pac-12. I wanted to go to SC, you know. And plus, SC was just popping at that time. Everybody was just going through there. And so I was like, cool, Tennessee, perfect, dope. And then I started getting more like Colorado State. I remember they both offered me like dang near the same week because they rivals. Usually the rival school is gonna offer the the same recruit just because the other one did it. And so then I remember Michigan State offered me, and then I was like, yo, this is crazy. But it came to like my junior year, man. It was my junior year going into my senior year. I remember Utah. It was just something different, man. Like the coaches, they came like 3 times to my house. And it was cool because that was when my mom had made some fish for them. And they was gobbling up my mom's fish that she cooked on the stove for them, you know, fish and fries. And so like just them just chilling in the house, you feel me? And just, you know, being with us there, like it was cool. And so that made me feel like at home. And so that's why I committed early to Utah, because it just felt like home to me. Like the coaches, you know, was down to earth. You know, they said I was going to play as a true freshman. They just beat Alabama in the Sugar Bowl. They had a spread offense. They moving in the Pac-12. I said, oh, this is like this is cool. I don't know where Utah's at, but this sounds cool. So I had to Google Utah, like, where is Utah at? And I figured out where it was. And then I heard about all the other stuff about the Mormons and all that other stuff. And so then I ended up committing. My mom was peed off. Boy, she was like, she called coach. She was like, how dare you take a commit from a 16-year-old kid? And she was on his head. And then I had to call him like, coach, my bad. He was playing it cool. So that was cool. But, you know, my mom eventually, you know, she got won over by him. But, you know, but yeah, man, that journey was just crazy. Just the recruiting process. And I only took one official visit, and that was to Utah. The other ones, I mean, they were back home. They were in my home. So like I can go to USC. I went to USC and UCLA like every weekend, you know, whether it was practice or their games. And then I went to like Fresno State back when Derek Carr was like a redshirt freshman at that time, and visited them. But, you know, I just felt like Utah was the right fit for me at that time.
For a recruit that's looking at this, what do you think? How do you think I mean, everybody's process is different when they're picking a school, but what do you think goes into a process in picking a school? How do you know a school genuinely wants you to be there, or wants, like, because I mean, a lot of colleges could be selling you a dream. They could be telling you all of this, and then you get there and you riding the bench all 4 years. Whether you got talent or not, it's just, you know, they might have some competition over you, or whatever the case may be. It might be politics involved. So how does a young athlete process making all these decisions when they're going through the recruiting process?
Right. Yeah, man. I think the best thing for a recruit to do is do their research. Like for instance, if I'm a 6 foot, 185 quarterback, right? And I got Oregon recruiting me. And I'm looking on Oregon's website right now. I'm like, okay, they got 3 redshirt freshmen, 163, 163, other 6'2". They all 225. Here I am at 185. I'm gonna ask the coach, like, hey, listen, so I won't waste my time, and definitely won't waste the coach time. I'm gonna be direct with them as far as the questions I'm gonna ask. I'm gonna ask them, what are their plans for recruiting in that position? What are they looking for? And if they are interested in me and are heavily recruiting me, like, where do they see me fitting in their program? Are they looking at me as a potential candidate for that quarterback position? Because based off their prior history, they look at 6'3" and 220 and up. Like, what's your plans for me? Like, let me know that, so you won't be selling me no dreams. Like, cause I need to know that. I'm not trying to go there, waste 2 years, and then you recruit someone else and he come in over me. Now I got to transfer. You know what I'm saying? So I think the best thing to do for a recruit is to research the school first, like formulate some questions to ask the coach just pertaining, you know, their situation and how they fit in the program, so that they won't get sold those dreams ultimately. And ask the players too, because the players ain't gonna lie to you. So well, some gonna lie because they're gonna try to sell you, but you know, once you get, you know, past that scuffle part, man, ask them the real, and they'll be honest with you.
That's real. And then, I mean, thankfully, like you said, I mean, your recruitment went pretty good, I would say. I mean, you picked the right school, you went to Utah, and you balled out. But let's get into that journey too. I mean, you get there, and what's that first year like for you? What's that freshman year like for you? Are you playing? What's going on?
Yeah, man. I get to my freshman year. It was good. Everything was working out exactly how it was planned to be. You know, the coach said I was gonna be playing as a freshman, and it was working up to, you know, I worked up to the rotation to where I would be playing, just like he said, in the position. And it came to about a week before the first game. We was doing a speed and space drill where it's me versus a defender. I have to try to juke him to score. And I catch the ball and I give him a little shake. I stiff arm him. But as I stiff armed him into my ankle.
Mm.
And so, I'm on the ground, I'm trying to get up, and I sit there for a little bit, and coach like, Scotty, get up. All right. And I try to get up again, and I'm like, Coach, I can't. And then everybody looked down at my ankle, and that thing looked like the Dak Prescott thing. And so, it came to find out that, I tore all the ligaments in my ankle my freshman year. And so at that stage, that was depressing. And it's not like a broken bone. Like a broken bone, you can kind of measure and see when it's going to come back, and see how, fast the process of healing is going to be on a bone. But for ligaments, it's all about like how you can build that strength up and how long it's going to take you. So some can take 7 months, some can take 5 years. It's just all about how you work it in the rehab process. And so, hearing that, I'm like, yo, so you're uncertain about my future? Like you telling me I may not be where I am like in 3 years? That's like, what's going on? And so, during that time was hard, a lot of depressing moments, you feel me? And it was just tough on me. And I was like, dang, all the world seemed like it's falling down. And then, I eventually, came back from the rehab, came back to kind of where I was. And then my redshirt freshman year, because I had redshirted that year, and I came back again as a redshirt freshman, came back, ended up playing that year. Pretty good season. It kind of led me into my sophomore year, which was kind of like my quote unquote breakout year to everybody, like in Utah and stuff like that, because, coming into my sophomore year, we was just in heavy rotation, and we had a senior class that was really good as far as the receivers go. And then we was just rotating, me and the other senior. And to get to a game, it was against Utah State. And shoot, any fan would tell you that was like my breakout game from when people really just start looking at me like, dang, this dude is going to be big time. This dude going to have some big potential. Because in that game, like Utah State had like 3 draft picks all at the defensive back position. So I'm playing against dudes that's going to be in the NFL the following year.
Right.
And so getting in the game, man, they just doing the basketball, so they just throwing it up to me. I'm over here yanking it over 2 people, scoring tugs. So, I end up, getting the game with like 3 catches, 2 tugs, a little under 100 yards in my first like real action. And then from there, it just kept on going, man. And, I was getting heck of love from it. And so, man.
That's what's up. So you balling out, and at the time, I'm looking at the roster back then, y'all had a hell of a group. I mean, I seen Devontae Booker on the roster back then, Tim Patrick.
Yep.
What was that camaraderie like? And do you think as a unit did y'all make each other better, or was it just a lot of individual talent on one team? Like what was it?
Man, Todd, it was a whole bunch of talent on the team. And we had Kalen Clay, who was a phenomenal returner too. Mm-hmm. Man, he here we go. Yeah, he was a phenomenal returner too, man. Kalen Clay, Tim, like you said, Andre, Drez. At the time, Damo, he switched to defensive back, but Damo was in there, Delshawn, Kenrick. We had a lot of guys, that were really talented. And I think the best thing about that group was, man, we competed. Like, we all boys, but I'm going to outshine you today. And we would have competitions. Like, I'm going to get 10 catches today. What you going to do? And I just think that made us all better. Like, and we held each other accountable in that aspect. Like, if we seen someone kind of slacking in the energy department, we'll be like, hey, come on, let's tighten up, let's go. This like, we got to get it. Like, and plus the DBs, they was talking trash for sure. And so we, talk trash right back, and I kind of get it right back. And so the chemistry between us and the camaraderie, especially in the film room too, if we see like, come on, man, you letting little dude right here block you, like as far as like you doing blocking, but you letting him overpower you, and so we held each other accountable. That's what made us a really good group, and we wasn't scared to tell like another guy on the core group, like step your stuff up. So that's what made us close.
That sounds about right. I mean, with the team that wins, like y'all, I mean, y'all was winning bowl games, all types of stuff, man. And I think that's the main thing about teams. Like when you see teams like that have success over long periods of time, like the Patriots or Golden State in basketball, or the Yankees in baseball back in the day. I mean, they all hold each other accountable, and they do their own job. So, how did that lead into a championship? And then what was the feeling when y'all won that bowl game? I mean, because that got to be different. A lot of people don't get to say they did that in college. You know
Man, that thing was crazy because it all really started in the off season. like, before he even got to that point in the off season, we challenging each other through conditioning drills. Like we all hate it. Like nobody really loves doing that type of stuff, but like we made it fun with each other. We competed. And so we knew like we had something special, and we just had to keep on, each day, just keep fighting and keep fighting. And ultimately, each day you get 1% better, it's going to, add up. And so that's what we did. And winning that championship, as far as like the bowl game, oh, it was dope. It was like the dopest feeling. It feels like even though it's not like a national championship, it still feels like that feeling, because you get rings, you get the hardware, you have all these festivities, like it's jam-packed with crowd, like it feels like that atmosphere. And so like, man, having that, man, and then plus you're gonna be called a champion too, so like that's the ultimate feeling. But it was beauty in all of it.
I know y'all was going back home to Utah, partying it up, man.
Man, hey, when we come back, like after every bowl game, like after every game, man, our fans, like when we pull up in the plane, like the team playing, it be hundreds of fans like outside. I'm like, yo, it's like 3:00 in the morning. Shouldn't y'all be getting ready to go to church next morning? Like, y'all know y'all got a sermon to get ready for. Like, so, but man, it's loyalty, man. It made it cool, because Utah, they don't have no professional football team, and so the love that they was giving us, it felt like we was that football team, like professional football team. And so, we felt like we had something to prove to everybody. Like, man, even though we don't have a professional football team, we have to act as if we are, because everybody looks at us as if we were. So, but it was dope, man. It was dope.
That's dope, man. And then after a great college career, man, you go on going crazy. I mean, I know you had a few injuries, like with that ankle.
Yep.
Even through all of that, though, you come and you're getting ready for after college.
Yeah.
So, what was that process like? I mean, I'm sure you had league aspirations at the time. You got the draft coming up after college. So, what was going through your head then, and then what was that process like?
Man, that process was probably so overwhelming, and I had a lot of anxiety with it too, because just to give everybody a background, my junior year, it was supposed to be like my breakout year, because it was all lined up. We had Dennis Erickson coming in, who was an all-time legend offensive coordinator. Every receiver that he had in his system, they went off to the league. They had big numbers. And so, as you mentioned, man, my junior year was 9 plays into the game, first game of the year, with this legendary offensive coordinator. Me and my dogs, we all, rah-rahing together. We had great chemistry. And first play of the game, first game of the year, 9 plays in, running back hits the ball out the backfield. I'm blocking for him on the left side. He gets tackled right into my other ankle, tore all the ligaments out, just like the first time. But this time I broke my fibula with it. And so, that's depressing, obviously, but, I fought back. And that's when I kind of got pinned the name Dark Knight, that everybody called me Batman. And from then on, because, Batman doesn't really have no like type of superpowers like any other superhero. All he has is grit. He gonna get down and dirty. He gonna do his job, and and when the light flashes on for his logo, he gonna come save the day. And that's sort of like what they pinned me as, like my moniker. And so, I came back and ended my career well. And so that transition out of college until the next phase, had to go through a grueling, you're trying out agents, right? You're questioning them, seeing if they're going to be the right fit for you. And for me, I end up, man, for people that know, at that time, Keyshawn Johnson, everybody knows Keyshawn Johnson, legendary receiver, he was wanting to represent me. And so at that time, I didn't feel it was right, because I felt like it was going to be a conflict of interest, because his whole roster was all receivers. And he had his cousin, Michael Thomas, which played for the Saints. And he had a couple other receivers that were in the Pac-12 with me. And so I just felt like in my mind that, okay, if an NFL team is coming and he asked Keyshawn, okay, which receiver out of your roster would you, show? And at that time, I'm like, man, how would he show? Like, what I'm saying? Would he be biased towards that person, or would, it's sort of been a conflict of interest. So I just went with someone where I was the only receiver on his roster as far as who he was representing, so that I can't get that attention, when it comes time to. So, I vetted out about 10 to 15 different agents, you know, just questioning them. And I found, you know, the one I felt was right for me at that time. And so after that, I went and trained in Oregon. And, you know, through that process, the agents would tell you like, hey, this is where the scouts see you at as far as grade wise. And, you know, the grade that, you know, I came back as, which was pretty cool, was, you know, was like the mid to late round grade. And so I was like, cool. But the only contingency about it was they was like, all right, the only thing is we know he's big. We know he can catch. We know he can do all these amazing things. The only thing we care about for him is his 40-yard dash. Like, how fast is he going, you know, vertically? And so everybody knows me. I'm not, like I said, I'm more of the possession type of receiver. You know, I'm gonna go up and get it, that type of cast. So they wanted me to fit that type of mode as far as, you know, like not fast, but they wanted me to run a 4.5 to achieve that grade that they have, you know, marked me as. And if I ran like a 4.6, I'll be pushed towards the later end of the draft and like on that free agent list. And if I ran anything higher than that, then it'll be hard for me. That's basically what they say. It'll be tough, you know, to kind of vet you out, especially with your prior injury history, you know, and all that. And so, you know, I went and trained, you know, pro day comes around and I balled out and everything. Balled out for almost a 40-yard, 40-inch vertical. Broad jump did great. The field drills killed it. Bench press killed it, you know. And once I got to the 40-yard dash, man, I was nervous because, like, I ain't never ran a 4.5 in my life. I ain't never, ever ran a 4.5. And so, yeah, man, I'm like, dang, 4.5. So I'm nervous. I'm over here. Like, when I got my hands in the ground, like, it's kind of shaking because I'm nervous. I'm like, man, what are they gonna think if I don't run it? All these thoughts running through my head while I'm lining up. So I end up running my first 40, and I run it. And as I'm looking back after I ran, I see the scouts. You know, they look down and they're writing on the paper, not in like any excitement at all. And at that time, all NFL teams was there, and half of the CFL teams were there too in attendance, watching all of us because we had a great class. And so, and I'm like, dang, I know I didn't do good. So the next time I go on the 40-yard dash. And now the pressure is even more on because I'm like, dang, so that one didn't go good. Now let me see how the heck I'm gonna do this one. So I ran it again. Obviously, it was disappointing. And so after the combine, you know, after the pro day, you know, draft day was approaching, and you know, during that time, I thought they was gonna wipe it under the rug because I had like almost 14 out of 32 teams that reached out to me, left me voicemails, reaching out to me, getting all my information just in case when they called me on draft day, so to speak. And so I'm like, okay, cool. They just going to bypass the 40-yard dash. It must not have been that important. And so the draft comes on. First round go by, second round go by, third round go by, fourth, fifth. I ain't gonna lie. During that time, I'm seeing these receivers getting picked up. I'm like, man, boy, weak, boy. Weak. I know I'm better than him. Sixth round go by. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get picked up next round. It's cool. And I'm saying like, man, this dude weak too. And then seventh round, I'm like, all right, this is gonna be the round. Last pick come, I'm like, all right, I'm finna be Mr. Irrelevant then or something. And then, man, draft over with. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna get a call for an undrafted free agent. Every one of my homeboys getting calls like, hey, signing undrafted and everything. I'm like, all right, where the heck am I at? 3 days later go by, people blowing me up. They're like, yo, what's going on? What's going on? You supposed to get drafted. You supposed to do this. What's going on? NFL, it made it worse because NFL.com wrote an article and was like the top available free agents, and my name was in there. So that kind of made it worse for me. I'm like, hey, come on, what's going on? So I'm thinking in my head, it's like, my agent working for me? Like, what's going on? So all these thoughts going in my head. I'm hot. I'm getting questioned by everybody. And then I was just downstairs in my mother-in-law's, like, she has a basement downstairs where it's like another house, but it's a basement. And I'm just sitting there in the dark, just watching TV. And my girl come downstairs and she was like, hey, babe, you stink. We need to get you up out of here. Like, and so we went out to go get something to eat. And so we walking towards this restaurant. It's a chicken and waffle spot. And so as we walking in the door, you know, I get a phone call. It's from a California number. I'm like, oh, it's probably somebody from back home calling me and something, going to ask me about it. So I pick up, like, hello. And he was like, hey, this is such and such from Los Angeles Rams. I was geeked. Well, I said, let's go. Well, that was the best chicken and waffles I've ever had in my life. Like, every taste was just scrumptious. I'm over here like, yeah, baby, this is good. Like, it felt good. So I made it to that point. You know, I get called over. They flew me out. And then my roommate at the time was DeQuil Williams. He was a receiver at Auburn. He's the one that got kicked off the team, and he was going to be a number one, like first round draft pick, but he ended up getting into some trouble and ended up going to free agent. But he was my roommate at the time, so we made it past the mini camp part, and we made it past the cut. And so I'm texting my mom, I'm texting my girl, I'm texting my agent, like, yo, we good, we made it, let's get it. And so like so season's approaching, training camp's about to come the following week, we in the cafeteria and stuff. And I'm talking with the guys, joking around with what's his name? The quarterback. What's his name? Jared Goff, because we played against him in the Cal, and he threw like 6 interceptions that game. And I remember Nelson Spruce was there. We had people in our room, we was watching Jeopardy. It was on some funny stuff. And so the next day, me, I think his name is Jabril, and DeQuil, Duke, we call him Duke. We went to go ahead and get our physicals, to get ready for training camp. So, I had prior history of injuries, of course, very extensive. And, after we get done, it was like 4 to 6 hour physical, and before we got to the physical place, right, we had time to where we can go out and explore the market, go to Malibu and go to the beach. And so while we're on the beach, man, we're rocking the Rams stuff. Everybody asking, "Oh, you with the Rams?" Yeah, we with the Rams. Boy, they giving us free stuff on the beach, free food, free everything. Boy, we just all soaking it in at the beach. Like, man, we here, man. We here, man. So the physical came, I get the results, and we was being nosy. We wanted to look at it. And so I looked at mine, and at the bottom of it said like a C-. I'm like, yo, this is not good. C-. And so, literally maybe 5 minutes later, the assistant comes in, and, he's getting off the phone with Jeff Fisher. That's who was the coach at the time. And they were like, "Hey, K. Scott, we're going to have to take you to the airport." I'm like, "Dang, y'all get airplane tickets that fast? Like, I just got here." So, but yeah, I end up, getting cut and having to fly on because I failed my physical, man, from the prior injuries. But that was cool. That was a cool moment for me, just to kind of get that opportunity, because not many get that opportunity,
Right.
at that. And so that was a pretty cool moment.
For somebody that don't know, what goes into, like, how do they grade a physical? Like, what does that look like then? Because obviously we all know what a physical is in high school, or
Yeah.
what the prior. But I've
Mhm.
never, but this is the first time, like, I heard they even give grades for that. Like, I've heard about, like, news where people don't pass their physical, but like, I
Yeah,
don't really understand, like, what goes into that. So how does that process? What is that process like?
man, you go in there, it's like X-ray. You got X-rays full of everything.
Mhm.
X-rays, CAT scans. They do blood tests. Literally everything to scan like your body to see what's working, what's not working, because at the end of the day, it's an investment.
Yeah.
Your body is your investment. However durable you are, that's only your one body. And
Mhm.
so, they do everything, X-rays, blood tests, CAT scans type thing, just to see where you are. And so it took about 4 hours. Yeah, about 4 hours. Just I'm going from room to room, waiting for my X-rays, then going here, getting blood tests, and getting stuck with needles, getting blood. And it was just crazy, doing knee thing where they hit you with the knee and all that other crazy stuff. And so, those physicals was crazy. And I was outside of, you doing like the conditioning type
Okay.
test.
Yeah. Yeah, because
And
I know
so,
they had like a conditioning test and stuff, but I just didn't know about that other side. Like, I didn't know you had
yeah,
to go through all of that with physical. But
yeah, it's crazy.
going after that though, what's your mindset like? Are you done with football? Are you still pursuing it? What happened
Mhm.
after that?
Yeah, man. So after I got cut by the Rams, man, I had went back to Oregon with my wife, and man, at that time I was devastated. But then, my agent was like, "Hey, listen, the Dolphins and the Vikings at the time, they were like, hey, we got a couple guys that may be injured or maybe, on the IR list that maybe we can bring you in and maybe you can come in and compete if they happen to get injured." And so I was just waiting on that time. And then for me, I was like, okay, cool. So I was just banking on that. And then September rolls around. I'm like, come on, man. I ain't getting no calls really. So I was like, you know what? Would it be best for me to go to the CFL, right? So I can actually prove that I'm still healthy. I can still play, things of that nature. So we started vetting out that process. I remember Toronto and Montreal were the two teams that reached out to me and was like, hey, we're very interested in you. And so at that time, I was like, okay, what if I wait out this year just in case? You never know, they may do a late season, want to put me on practice squad type thing. And then I sign a future contract to play after the season and then go into the CFL because they have 2 different seasons. And so that's what I ended up doing. So I just waited. And then, I signed my contract with Montreal like in September. And then I did a future contract. So in the spring, I can go ahead and be officially a part of the team. And so, obviously I didn't get brung on to the NFL. And so I went the CFL route. So I get to the CFL, with Montreal. It was dope. Hey, I had some cold quarterbacks. I had Ja'Cory Harris, who was the quarterback at Miami back in the day. I had Connor Holiday, who was a quarterback at Washington State.
I remember him.
He was swinging the thing. Boy, I said, ooh. Then
he
I
was
had
breaking records at Washington State back in the day.
Yeah. Yep, sure was. Then I had Vernon Adams too. And so like we was legit. And the cool thing about the CFL is that they do all this motioning type stuff and so it allows you to have more space because the field is bigger, it's longer, and all that. So it was pretty cool in that aspect. And also like when you're in the huddle, because everybody, the Canadian players, they speak French. That's like their first language. And so you in the huddle, people speaking French, you're like, what you talking about? You talking about me or something? And so it was crazy. But man, one thing I do want to say, man, when I made the dumbest decision before I went to the training camp of the CFL. So, just getting to it, I was trying to, to stay in shape. And so I went to go play pickup basketball. And I didn't have no basketball shoes at the time. So I just went to Ross, picking some cheap basketball shoes. I went to Ross, played basketball for the night. And then like the next morning, I had some blisters on the bottom of my foot to where I couldn't really walk. And I'm like, come on, man. I'm already labeled as like injury prone, and the injuries is not really my fault, but I'm labeled as it. Like, this can't be happening. So, I get to training camp, I'm hobbling, like coming in there, like, oh shoot, man, these people ain't going. So, during practice, like I would do my receiver stuff, like do team drills, everything. But the one thing that was like the big decision was the special teams part. And me, I ain't really a special teams person. I'm like, hey, look, I'm receiver or it's nothing. So like when it was doing special team stuff, I was sitting out, and what I realized was that, after I had gotten released, I realized that was one of the big key components was that you're a great receiver. You just didn't have more added value because you didn't do no special teams. You didn't do nothing else other than receiver. We have receivers already, but they do more than you. It's not the matter of if they're better than you. It's just they just have more value than you because they can do more, right? Because there's only a certain amount of American players on the CFL team that they can have. And that's both true for the NFL too. You have a receiver, you expect him to be on a punt return team, right? Because it's smaller the teams. And so, the main reason why, I got released was I didn't add the value that's needed as far as for special teams. And plus, shoot, I was hurt. And so for any athlete out there, man, the more you do, the more value you have to offer any school. So if you play just receiver in high school, you holding yourself out because you need to play both sides just in case. Like in high school, I played safety, and I had offers at safety, out of high school. And so it's just, makes you more marketable to the colleges, in that recruiting process by being more valuable and doing more things.
A good segue to go into after football life. So for somebody that I don't want to say put all their eggs in one basket, because that's definitely not the case. But I mean, growing up, it's like when you playing sports, it's kind of like, at least my perception, even back then, it was like either NFL and then I'm gonna figure out what my plan B after the NFL.
Right.
The NFL is like the main goal, or like for playing the sport professionally, getting paid for it. That is the main goal.
Yep.
So after that, like you said, things this NFL or CFL didn't work out. What was your next career path after? And how did you end up finding that? Because that can't be an easy thing for somebody after, like I said, like football is, I ain't gonna say it's all you know, because obviously you went to college, you got a degree.
Right.
That's a lot. That's a part of it though. That's you grew up having that dream. So how do you find that?
Right.
How do you find that next passion?
So for me, I was lucky to be a part of a program like University of Utah. What they did was in the summertime, when the schedule is not as gruesome as it is in the fall or the spring doing practices and stuff, they allowed us to, do internships or work, and so I took my time and I just dedicated my time to be of service. So I used to just go to different schools and just speak to them. That was my job. I was just going to speak to them. And I even did like some sales jobs in high school. I mean, in college during during summers, and just to get that skill, just to pick up on something, because you never know, you might like something that you did in the summer, and I think that kind of helped me a lot. Matter of fact, because in college I was being of service by going out and speaking to kids and doing that. And so once I got out of college, I knew that's something that I loved doing, like going out and speaking to people, helping people, serving people. So once I got done playing sports, the transition, and I went straight to a nonprofit organization and was helping, women in shelters, men that was in the reentry program. So basically helping them transition back to the, real world, so they won't have to, fade back to their old ways and going back into prison. And so I was doing that, helping them, help their families. And so I got approached by, someone in the business department of T-Mobile, and I was like in the sales department, selling business to business. And I was like, and they asked me like, have you ever sold, anything in your life? I was like, and I instantly said, yeah, of course. I'm lying. Like I ain't never had a sales job, but like I have the skills to sell. And so I told them two stories. And the first story was this. I said, hey, when I was a sophomore in high school, and I knew, and this is a good tip for recruits out there. I said, when I was a sophomore in high school and I knew I had a good product, which was me, I knew that I was hot on the market. People were loving me. I knew my job was to get out in front of as many people as I can and to market myself to as many people I can. So what I did, this is what I told the salesperson, what I did, I knew I was a D1 athlete. I knew it because that's the attention I was. I reached out to every Division I school. I emailed them and followed up with them every dang week almost, right? So where they gonna see me, they gonna know who I am and everything. And so the first thing I did was I made sure my product was right. And then I marketed my product and I made sure I followed up, right? And he was like, okay, you did that? I said, yeah, I did that as a young boy, I did that. And it paid dividends for me, And then the second time I told him, I said, listen, I said, how hard is it to get a job if you have multiple felonies, right? I was like, would you hire someone if someone had 10 felonies right now? He's like, no, I wouldn't hire nobody if I had 10 felonies. Like they wouldn't even pass the background check. I was like, that was my job. Basically, I had to go out. I was the employment specialist. So I would go out to different organizations and advocate for my guys of why they should hire my guy, And so, I did a great job, but I had a lot of dudes that just got out of prison. I was able to get them work. And I was like, that was my sales job. Like I had to sell my product, which was those men, to the different organizations so they can have a job to be able to support their families. And so I was like, when it comes to sales, I can do that. I got the gift of the gab. And so that sold them on that. And ever since then, man, it just took off. And I wound up being one of the for 2 years in a row, top business professional in the whole market. I was top 10. Like they give awards out for top 15% in the company, like in sales. And I was that every year, like first 2 years, never done a sales job before that. And I was a top salesman in the whole company. Out of 600 salesmen, I was top 10 in both years, bro. And which was dope to me because I was like, man, I literally transferred all the skills that I learned from football, like the hard work, the dedication, the determination, like the grit, the competitiveness, like all that, and I just applied it to sales, and that's what I did. And so when people ask me my success in sales, like as far as in the organization, I'm like, man, it's my sports background, man. I just translated everything I knew and put it in there. And so, that's what I translated to, man. So if you just coming out of your sports career, the best thing to do is just identify your transferable skills like I did, and figure out when you use them and kind of apply it to whatever role that you're trying to hunt for, like I did. And so that's what helped me out making that move.
That's dope. That's dope as hell. I mean, especially for somebody like, you come out of school, it's kind of hard to find those new passions. I knew when I was done with football, I was like, oh man, what I'm gonna do? You feel what I'm saying? Like I've been
Yeah.
playing this, I love this sport, but I'm grown now. It's time to figure stuff out. And then when it's such an easy transition, like yourself, you get to apply those things. It just makes everything so much easier. Um,
Hmm.
with that being said, like for young athletes, coming up, grinding, trying to get that D1 offer, trying to get to the league, what advice
Hmm.
do you got for them?
Yeah, man. I think it kind of alludes back to what I was saying in the beginning, man. Make sure your brand is right. And I'm not just talking about just on the field, but off the field too, like your grades. Man, when I was getting offered I remember when I was signing, it was signing day. And my coach Rod, he called me, which was my position coach, was like, hey, I got some bad news for you. You got a 2.3 GPA and you had an ACT that was a 17. You may not be eligible. I was like, no. For real? Like, he was like, you might have to go JUCO. I was like, nah, coach, I can't go JUCO. I can't do that. I can't afford that. My parents, man, we living off Section 8 food stamps and welfare program. I can't pay for no JUCO. And he was like, well, I'm gonna call you back. I'm gonna see if they mess with the numbers and see what that, so I can let you know if you're eligible. And so that sunk my heart. So the first thing, man, for recruits, handle your business in the academics. Like handle that, handle on the field, handle in the community. Make sure people speak a good word about you, because when recruiters come onto the campus, they're not just going to ask your teachers, your coaches. They're going to ask the guidance counselors. They're going to ask other students about you. They're going to ask all that. And then lastly, about your brand and social media. Like they're gonna scour through that. They're gonna make sure you ain't using no foul, explicit language, ain't doing nothing crazy. And so that's kind of wrapped up in your brand. And after you get your brand together, right, the next thing to do is market yourself. You a business. Like this is a business, and you got to market yourself. You got to put your product in front of people so they can kind of demo and check it out. And so that's reaching out and emailing, calling, following them on social media, DMing them, right, and creating a follow-up process so that you can keep on getting in front of them so that they can have eyes on you. Like if you never reached out to them, how are they supposed to know you unless you're a 4-star, 5-star athlete? I mean, and there's a lot of people that get looked over, like that cat Justin Jefferson, who was a 2-star in high school, and he's killing it right now in the NFL. Like, just think if he would have marketed himself in high school, like how talented he is. He probably just didn't market himself right in high school. He could have been a 5-star. And so, like, once you get your brand right, market yourself to where you can be able to sell your product, and also understand the different division levels too. Like if like take a SWOT analysis of yourself, like understand your strengths, weaknesses, areas of opportunities, and like threats that can perceive you on that path. Like once you do that, that can give you a good understanding of what division level you should attend to. Like I'm not going to waste my time reaching out to D1, D1 schools when I'm a 5'6", 170 running back. Nah, I'm gonna act accordingly, and like I still feel like I can play on that level, but let me be smart. Let me reach out to these D2 schools because I may have a better chance, and I don't want to waste my time with them. Not saying I'm not going to reach out to them, but I'm gonna dedicate my time to these D2 schools. Let me secure some scholarships on this end. Then I can go back and re-up and go to these D1s and reach out to them, right? But I at least want something in there. So that's why I would tell people, man, get your brand right, market yourself accordingly, understand your product, and figure out what your steps is, right? Because like I said, don't the worst is getting sold dreams by someone else, but don't sell yourself a dream. That's the biggest thing. People out here selling themselves dreams, and that can get them in a big old deep hole.
That's what's up, man. I think we could leave off on that. That was some good advice. Hey, I think the youngins out there gonna take that in, and I hope they soak it up because I mean it's a cold game in that recruiting process, man. But it's all about what you make it. So,
Yeah,
man, I appreciate you for coming on. Dope story. I appreciate the grind that you putting in, man, and I
thank
appreciate
you.
you just taking the time that you to do this with me, man. Real
Of
talk, man.
course, man.
Real
Champ
talk.
talk. That's what it is. Of course,
Champ
man.
talk,
Anything
man.
you
That's
need,
what
I
it
got
is,
you.
man. Real shit, man. I appreciate you, man.
No problem, man. I'll holler at you later.
All right, champ talk.
Jay did it.